Hi guys! So if you're watching this video, it means you're interested in learning a little bit more about my heart behind why I want to go on this compassion trip and how God is making it happen. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Lauren Elizabeth, or as some people call me, LB, and I'm currently a junior at Palm Beach Atlantic University studying ministry. So a couple of reasons why I want to go on this trip. I originally heard about it through some professors and friends of mine. And I grew up in a military environment. I'm an Army brat. And my impression of the Middle East for a very long time was nothing but negative. Hearing about the wars and just the terrorism that happens over there day in and day out, consistently on the news. You can look up and you can see death after death, tragedy after tragedy. And it had always kind of compelled me to learn why. I didn't always grow up with the best impression of that culture, and I was very scared and intimidated by it for a long time. However, when I came to college, I had the opportunity to partner with a local organization that works with refugees, and I got to get involved tutoring and teaching English to refugees, particularly from Syria. Now, as you know and have heard on the news lately, Syria is a hotbed for terrorism, and a lot of people are having to flee their homes and their families, and everything they've ever known and everything they've ever loved, to come to a foreign place like America, which is a complete culture shock, different language, different cultural traditions, different beliefs, and having to start again completely from the ground up. And so the organization that I partner with helps to make that transition a little easier. One of the things they do that I, again, get to be involved with is teaching and tutoring English. And the exposure that I have had to these families has been incredible. I have had the opportunity to learn so much about their plight and about their experiences. And I've gotten to interact with them on a level that I think is just so beautiful. Getting invited to their home, getting to play with their children, and to hear their stories and their life. It's just amazing. And so through that opportunity and that experience, I was able to develop and build a bridge of community with Middle Eastern Muslims that I was so terrified of before. And so through that process and that building of a bridge, when I heard about this opportunity to do missions work in the Middle East for 3 weeks, I got so excited. I jumped on it and I was like, yes, I have to do this. I have to go. This is an amazing opportunity. And just kind of freaked out. But due to kind of my excitable nature, I had to take a step back and really consider the options. And so for about 6 months, I just prayed and thought about and ruminated on this idea of going to the Middle East. And after many, many months of just consistent prayer and also advice and conversations about the call to missions work, and particularly about the needs in the Middle East, I decided to have an interview with one of the missions leaders and just talk about this trip and what it would entail, what it would look like, to confirm, is this really something that God is calling me to? And I went on the interview and it just seemed like everything was confirmed. Like this was a great idea. It was something I was ready for, that God was opening the door for. And so I began to pursue it. But about a month into the process, I hit hard times. My family kind of went through a financial struggle, and a lot of the money that I had been saving up for my passport to start the process just kind of had to go elsewhere. And it kind of seemed like the doors for this trip just started to close. And I don't know if y'all have ever experienced this, but I thought that I was going to be the wise guy and tell God that he was wrong. I really took this blip as an understanding that maybe I completely misheard God's voice. Maybe it was just me imagining that I was supposed to go on this trip, and it was just my excitement. And I felt like all the caution that I put through all the months was just, there's nothing but hot air. And so I ended up deciding for myself, never a good idea, by the way, that I wasn't supposed to go on this trip. And about another month passed by, and I was sitting in my room just kind of ruminating on things. It looked like I had a bunch of other summer plans that were able to happen, a possible job on campus, a possible internship. And as time went by throughout that month, all those plans fell through. And I remember just sitting there thinking, okay, God, like, haha, this isn't funny. What am I supposed to do with my summer? And in just kind of a still, small, quiet voice, I heard him say, missions trip. Now, I freaked out. I was just like, this is, what? Like, no, what? Like, this is crazy. I already said, again, not a good idea to tell God what you're going to do. But I was like, we already decided that this isn't going to happen. I'm missing the deadlines. I don't have the money to get my passport or to even go on this trip. Like, it just doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. And again, in just a quiet voice in the back of my head, he was like, missions trip. And I was like, okay. If you want me to go on this trip, you have got to send confirmation through someone. 'Cause I don't know if it's just me being weird or secretly just really having this desire to go. Like, I need confirmation on this. And so he, being God, faithful, answered that. It was about a day or two later, I was sitting in a building studying for an exam I had when one of the mission trip leaders caught me and said, hey, are you still applying to go on the trip? Are you still wanting to go? And I gave him my whole spiel about how I didn't have the money and the timing didn't look good. And it just I didn't think that this was a good idea. And this person said to me, well, we just got word that we're extending the application deadline. And keep in mind, this is the same person that I interviewed with to go on the trip in the first place. And they said, I really want you to go. And I thought that we had confirmation for you to go. He said, and I don't want to put words in God's mouth, but I would really want you to go. I think you should go. I think this is a good idea. And I just kind of stopped. And I just looked up and I was like, God, fine. I will go. And I stopped and I told my friend right then and there, I was like, do you realize that God just worked through you to give me confirmation about going on this trip? And, they just smiled. And they said, well, looking forward to it then. And so we just continued our conversation, and I shared my heart about the finances. For those of you that know me, and even if you don't, this is my first trip outside of the country. I've done a few local missions trips inside the country, and they've all been amazing. But I've never had the opportunity, just kind of due to my background of moving, every 8 months to, a year. And so being in one solid place, I finally have the opportunity to pursue an overseas missions trip. And I just explained to him, I'm so terrified about the cost and the deadlines. I'm a broke college student, I have nothing. And the advice and encouragement that this person gave me is what I'm banking on for this trip. And they told me, if you really believe that this is something God is calling you to, then pursue it with everything. Fill out the applications, raise awareness, try to get sponsors, and God's going to open those doors. And if not, then you know that this wasn't God's plan for you. But, they said my encouragement to you is keep pursuing. And God will close and open the right doors. And so I'm asking you and sharing with you my heart to partner with me in trusting God for this trip. It is a giant leap of faith, and it's terrifying. But I truly believe that God does not call us to live in the comfortable. He calls us to live in a space of dependence and of faith. And pursuing this trip is walking in that. As believers, we are called and compelled to help the hurting, to be a light in darkness, and to bring wholeness to what's broken. We are ambassadors of Christ himself. In the Great Commission, it compels the church to go to the nations and share the gospel. And my friends, the Middle East, Syria, Jordan, Yemen, Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran, all the other countries, Turkmenistan, Oman. Those are the nations. Those are the nations right now so in need of our help, facing just pure darkness. There's no light. And we as the church are called and compelled to be that light, to be the hands and feet to those that are completely hurting and without hope. Many of them believe that they're alone, that no one sees their plight. Hundreds, if not thousands, are dying every day, every week, every month. Many of whom are even underground Christians that are dying for their faith, persecuted because they simply say the name Jesus. And if I can answer just a part of that call to be obedient, to let them know that they're not facing this tragedy alone, that the people in America hear them, see them, love them, and have sympathy with them in their plight. That's the gospel. That's the gospel. Bringing the truth of Christ's freedom to the captive. Being a conduit of God's wholeness to the broken. That's the gospel. And that's why I'm going to the Middle East.